What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages? This is our next special of the Get to Know You series. I'm the bomb. Yes, I am. I am your hostess, the wonderful, talented, charming, challenging, sometimes really don't care, Pinky. This is
Jade again.
And we are interviewing Mr. Bossman himself, the Renegade of Wrestling, J.J. Williams.
Yeah.
Say what's cracking.
Thank you.
Say what's cracking.
What's going on?
We just felt like, getting Bossman, last. I don't know if that sounded right, but start strong, go home strong.
Well,
yeah.
Technically, don't you have one more coming with Mr. Lowdown Radio himself, Sean Cloth? So wouldn't he be last?
Well, he's kind of
Bossman.
Well, yeah, but he's still Bossman, but you're all Bossman. So that's what we mean.
So I'm the last one from within the studios, and he's the last one in general.
Correct.
At least until such time where you get like an actual wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. I think our last one was who? Yeah.
It was one that wasn't aired.
Because it was that clusterfucky.
Outtakes and bloopers that just might show up on.
Okay. So, let's do one that we actually do again.
Yeah, at least he'd be willing to do one again. Hopefully it won't be as wrong.
Cluster screwy again.
Yeah, cluster screwy. I like that.
Thank you.
Well, why are you saying cluster screwy? There's no kid here, and I just said cluster fucky.
I don't know.
We just felt like saying
habit. It's a good habit to have.
Now, would you care to kick this off, girlfriend?
Okay. Well, getting to know you a little bit.
Okay.
We know you have a daughter.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about her.
Her name is Natalie Rose Williams.
That's the most pretty name I've ever heard, too. I love that name.
Thank you. She will be 4 in January.
Yay.
And she's quite honestly the center of my world. Even though I don't get to see her as often as I'd like to, she's still the center of my world.
Aww. Are you proud to be a papa?
Of course. And I freaking have her name tattooed on my arm here. Don't know how good the camera can see it, but it's a rose with the name Natalie in the stem for Natalie Rose.
How cute.
How did you come up with the name?
Me and her mom both worked on it together.
That's teamwork. Nice. Okay, getting out of the mushy stuff here before we all just tear, cry, and ruin makeup and stuff here. How in the world did you come by the name the Renegade of Wrestling?
Honestly, I don't even remember how I came up with the nickname. I was trying to come up with a cool nickname, a catchy nickname for my show that I was going to premiere. I already knew when I was going to start the show. I already knew what the show was going to be about. I had the date set for a minute because I was promoting the 1/11/11 for like a good month or two before I even debuted.
Nice.
So I had everything set. I just needed a show name. I didn't know what I was going to call it yet. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And I think it kind of came from trying to work off of the ROH type of thing. Because I wanted to be different from like WWE and TNA, and I wanted to be more rebellious and not just, oh, WWE wrestling is the greatest thing ever type of thing, you know. And I always had liked the NWO logo, so I was trying to think of something that would kind of work within that aspect. Something OW instead of WO. I ended up coming up with the Renegade of Wrestling, ROW.
Nice. One more question along the lines of that. Do you see yourself as a standout from other channels or other, wrestling shows or vlogs, video logs for those you guys who don't know what it is, Do you see yourself as a standout just because of the name, or because of the name and what you represent and what you bring to the table?
Well, for what I represent, I definitely consider myself a standout because there's very few people out there. In fact, I don't think there was anybody out there covering indie wrestling when I started covering indie wrestling over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got other guys that do shows that talk about indie wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
As far as being like a standout talent or anything, or like, it was never about that for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, yes, I always wanted to make the best product that I felt I could do,
Mm-hmm.
but I never had to be the superstar. I just wanted to be me, venting my, issues and applauding the good things that I see both on the indie scene and on the pro scene.
Mm-hmm.
It is my release. Instead of getting all pissed off and going postal on somebody at the job, just start swinging, I was able to sit down in front of the camera and take my frustrations out.
Nice.
Because more often than not, I'd have a shitty day and then I'd come home and see a shitty wrestling product, and it's like, okay, I gotta say something about this bullshit.
This is some bullshit. Okay, take it away.
Now, we know you've dabbled in backyard wrestling.
Okay.
Why did you do backyard wrestling instead of pro wrestling? Going to a school and learning how to do professional wrestling?
Well, before I get into the why, let me just say that backyard wrestling is something that I think everybody does at some point in their life. They may not exactly call it backyard, but everybody wrestles around with their big brother or their cousin, whether it's in the house jumping off of couches and living room tables, or in the front yard jumping off the porch, or if they're really crazy, off their roof.
In the
I
pool.
was going to say, people doing swantons off of their roof into the pool, or frog splashes. Everybody does some kind of backyard wrestling. So, let's not just put that
Whether you're a fan or
stamp.
not.
Yeah, let's not just put that stamp about backyard being this evil creature, even though the industry looks at it as such. Why I did backyard more than real wrestling was, honestly, it came down to income. I've never had the money to really be able to pay for wrestling school. So a bunch of my buddies got together and we, just kind of goofed around like guys do. And we just had fun with it. A couple of us were able to get funds to go on to school. I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to throw them under the bus. But, a couple of our guys were able to get the money and go to school and actually start doing this the real way. And, I applaud them.
I was one of those who came from the organization that you speak of. And I was able, through you guys, to go to EWF. That's where I got my start. Besides you guys, I got my start through EWF, so I was able to go to school and I got into class knowing all of the basics and even some of the advanced stuff, which a lot of people, for lack of a better term, hated me for. Because first day of class, I knew what forward row, back row, 3/4 row. They're like, huh? I'm like, that's what I used to do. I know that.
What happens when you do your homework?
Exactly. It's what happens when you do your homework. So
and we always kind of just figured, if you can take a bump on the unforgiving grass,
Right.
Ow.
then a ring is actually a step up.
Yeah, it's more padded.
No, ring feels like a pillow compared to grass.
Well, yeah.
It's hard. What are your thoughts on backyard wrestling per se? Not necessarily, that it's an evil creature hiding, in the closet, grrr, one of them. But what are your honest thoughts about that?
I think as long as you don't do backyard expecting to be the next John Cena or Randy Orton or AJ Styles, then, whatever, Again, as long as you're out there just goofing around with your buddies, your cousins, your brothers, whatever, having fun, it shouldn't be looked at as such a bastard of the industry. There's a lot of guys within the business that came from backyard that have made huge names for themselves.
Correct.
Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Matt and Jeff Hardy, Mick Foley, You know, all these guys were basically backyard guys before making their mark, and they're all former world champions. You know, Matt counts because he was the ECW world champion, even though it was the botched ECW title.
Not the real one.
You know, but Jeff has been WWE World Heavyweight, TNA. You got Punk, who's been ROH, ECW, WWE World Heavyweight. You've got Brian, who's been ROH World Heavyweight. You've got, you know, Foley, who's been multi-time WWF champion. So, you know, you've got guys that have become big names, and they all started out in the backyard.
Gotcha. One more before I throw it off to you. Were you always a wrestling fan, and if not, when exactly did you come into wrestling?
I was expecting this question. It's about the only one I really was expecting.
It would actually be my next one.
Well, you cross out your list now. Go ahead.
I got into wrestling back in 1998. I was always one of those that ridiculed professional wrestling. I was always one of those guys that got on my friends' cases for being wrestling fans, telling them it's fake. Why are you sitting there watching a couple of oiled up steroid freaks and speedos rolling around on the mat and shit? Are you gay?
Oh.
That was always me, and it was, you know, in the midst of the Attitude Era, and I was told by my friends, Bruce, who y'all have seen on the channel before doing music things and horror movies with us.
Everybody loves Bruce.
Mike, Stat Boy, and our friend Blaine, may he rest in peace. I was told, you know, that I can't sit there and talk shit about it unless I give it a chance. So I was like, okay, you know what, I'll sit there and I'll watch 2 hours worth of Monday Night Raw, and I'll come back here and I'll still shit talk it the next day. I came back the next day and I was like, dude, that was pretty awesome. And I was changed forevermore. It was kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge being visited by the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future, since I had 3 people telling me I had to give it a chance, and then coming back the next morning all changed man and everything. Yeah, that's kind of how it was with me.
Sorry for the squeaks, that was funny.
Well,
that was
being
fun.
a daddy, if Natalie told you that she wanted to be a professional wrestler, what would you say, and why would you?
I'd be all for it.
Aww.
I would be all for it. I would make sure that she knew that it was a tough business. You know, even though I have never legitimately been in the business, I'd make sure to let her know that it's a tough business. I would make her come up the right way. You know, the few times that I've brought her to shows, you know, I haven't had her like shake hands, but I've introduced her to everybody. You know, the respectful thing to do. I'd make sure she went to the best training camp, which out here right now has to be the Santino Brothers Dojo.
I agree. I agree.
And I would have her, you know, talking to the girls that are out here. And, you know, who knows who that may be in 15 years.
Yeah.
But right now it would be the, you know, the Thunder Kitties, the New York Knockout Nickies, the Tara Callaways. And I'd have her talking to all those girls and be like, you know, what is it like being in this male-dominated sport? You know, this past week we saw Tara take on 2 dudes in a tag tournament.
Yeah.
You know?
And she got
so, and she got her ass whooped, exactly.
Yes, she did.
But she was in there bumping like a champ.
Yes, she was. She took it like a champ.
Exactly.
She took it like a champ.
You know, and we saw Nikki a week or so ago at Millennium Pro in there working with guys, but that's nothing new for her. She's used to doing that. You know, so...
She kicks ass doing it, too.
Oh, hell yeah. Hi, Nikki. You're awesome.
You know? So I would have her talking to all those girls, and whoever it may be 15 years from now, 20 years from now, if she decides to do it, you know, trying to get as much information, as knowledge as she can.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll save that question for later. Do you think you inspire others to do something greater with their lives?
I'd like to hope so. I'd like to hope so. I'd like to hope that, my opinions and what I do, helps other people find it within themselves to do it. I know you've said on numerous occasions that watching me and Jeff do our show inspired you to get in front of the camera and do it.
It has.
Just like, in a sense, me watching Jeff do talk wrestling and XMV inspired me to do a Hardy Conversation and then Renegade of Wrestling, I hope the cycle continues and, people are out there watching Renegade and Dads and Stat Boy and In the Pink and Chicks and all that stuff and saying, hey, these guys are just sitting down in front of the camera talking. It's harder than it looks, but
really
at the end of the day,
is.
it's not that hard. You just get your thoughts together, you figure out what you want to say, and you sit down and you do it.
It's easier when you have a co-host to bounce off of, I think.
Agreed.
Agreed to a point.
Yeah.
I prefer, like Jay said, that watching him and Jeff do their show inspired me to start on my own.
Yeah.
In my own home, I was doing maybe 2 or 3 minute shows because it was just my thoughts on certain things. But it was so cool just to see guys doing this, and there was no other female, and I did my research. There was no other female that I saw that was doing anything that Jeff and JJ were doing. So I said, oh, forget this, I'm going to try it myself.
It's
and
almost
I did it all by myself.
It's almost like you wanted to tout, but you wanted more than 15 seconds.
Thank you.
So you were doing like 2 or 3 minute touts as opposed to 15-minute shows or 15 seconds,
So, yeah, it definitely inspired me to do that. So, thank you.
How did you get started with BPW?
August 2011, went to my first show there. Talked to some of the guys in charge after the show. They came up to me, ironically asking what I thought. I don't know if they knew who I was going in or if they just saw me talking with some of the boys, like, hey, how's it been? Haven't seen you in forever, so they figured I was somebody. And, asked my opinion on the show, and I told them it was fantastic. And, I haven't missed a show since then. It was probably either the November Pain show in 11 or the very first show in January. And, I asked them, I was like, hey, would you guys like a little bit of help? Some promotion, help setting up the ring, blah, blah, blah. And me and Jeff started sitting ringside, tweeting results and, oh, so-and-so just did this move to so-and-so, basically being commentators, but over social media. And then from there, we started assisting with the ring crew also. We started doing the hype videos and, post-show videos like we usually do for pay-per-views and whatnot. And since they don't run weekly, technically every show is a pay-per-view. So we were just trying to get their name out there and get them exposure because we actually believed in their product, and we still do believe. I've been itching for a battleground show since Pinky's Playhouse.
I know.
Yeah.
I was
Actually, one of the higher ones.
Yeah.
I was talking
so cool.
to the owner the other night, and it was like, man, I'm like a crackhead. I'm fiending for the next.
Right?
I'm itching and fiending for the next hit of battleground. Man, it's like, when is it
I
gonna
miss
be?
my boys.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Okay. My last question is, what do you think about the negative comments about our shows, our hosts, and do you even care?
Honestly, I don't care.
Score.
And if the fans want to hate on me for saying I don't care, well, go ahead and hate. Haters gonna hate. Haters are our #1 fans because they pay the most attention to what we have to say so that they can find something to rag on in the first place. At the end of the day, it comes down to the very simple philosophy. If you don't like what we're doing, don't watch. Change the channel. Mute if you can't stand her voice, if it's too annoying, if hers is too high-pitched and squeaky, whatever. If you don't like us, don't watch. No skin off our back. We're here for the people that want to hear our opinions, be they educated or uneducated. And I only say that because I know you just started doing your homework really.
Yeah, it's perfectly
You know,
fine.
a lot of your older shows were more uneducated opinions,
Right.
but you're coming along, you're doing your work, you're doing really
I'm
well.
learning.
She's a learning.
But whether they want to hear our educated or our uneducated opinions, if you want to see what we have to say, press the play button and you watch the show. And if you don't, you can not press play, or you can unsubscribe if you're already a subscriber of the channel. Go find somebody else's show to watch. It doesn't matter to me, because at the end of the day, yes, we may get paid from YouTube for the ads to do this show, but we're doing it because we want to do it.
And we're doing
Bottom
it
line.
because we want to. Right.
Do you think WWE style wrestling should be in the Olympics?
No, absolutely not.
Why?
Absolutely not, because it's entertainment, it's not sport.
That's
People
right.
would argue that sometimes, though,
They
because
can
of
argue
all
all they
the
want.
because of all the physical
It's
stuff.
athleticism,
Mhm.
but it's not sport.
Yeah.
It's sports entertainment.
There is a difference.
Okay.
And we've been told to wrap this one up, Sharon. That was actually pretty kick-ass.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here.
We enjoyed having you, didn't
We
we?
love Boss Man.
He's amazing. This guy right here. So, until next time, our next and last interview will be big boss man, Sean Clark.
Yeah.
So continue to check us out
The
on.
big boss man that got hung by the Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell?
Oh.
No, you goofy, I'm dang home. Continue to check us out here on YouTube. And as we have moved over to UnlimitedRadio247.net, you can check out all of our videos, as well as we have some upcoming interviews with us
Really
at Casa
exciting.
Jade Studios. Oh my gosh. JJ's interview happens on Tuesday.
So it already happened because this is Thursday.
Oh my God, it sure did.
Stat Boy will be having his on Saturday.
On Saturday.
Next Tuesday, Jade will be on the air, and a week from this Saturday, Pinky will be on the air with Sean Cloth on Lowdown Radio, found on Unlimited Radio 24/7.
This is gonna be wild.
We've been doing so much, it's like, I could see.